Welcome to the 2024 Wayne State University Tribute to the Life and Legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
This is the most important and crucial period of your lives, for what you do now and what you decide now at this age may well determine which way your life shall go. And the question is whether you have a proper, a solid, and a sound blueprint. And I want to suggest some of the things that should be in your life's blueprint. Number one, in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness. Don't allow anybody to make you feel that you are nobody. Always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth. And always feel that your life has ultimate significance. Secondly, in your life's blueprint, you must have, as a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. Once you discover what it will be, set out to do it and to do it well. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Finally, in your life's blueprint must be a commitment to the eternal principles of beauty, love, and justice. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal stair, but we must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but by all means, keep moving.
Please now stand for the singing of the National Anthem by the Wayne State Performing Arts students and faculty choir.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so
Please now remain standing for the Black National Anthem performed by Renaissance Varsity Chorus under the direction of Patrice DeBose. Welcoming now to the stage, Stacy Clayton, Director of Community Affairs at Wayne State University.
Good morning. Welcome to Wayne State University's tribute to the life and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And thank you to Amazon for returning as our presenting sponsor again this year. It is wonderful to see so many alumni, community partners, and friends in the audience. I want to give a special greeting to all of the middle and high school students that we have here. If you haven't done so already, in a few years you'll be deciding where you want to go to college. May I humbly suggest Wayne State University. "2024 marks the 24th year that Wayne State has hosted the signature event to honor Dr. King. We do this every year to recommit to the goals and ideals of Dr. King and to honor him for the sacrifice that he gave for all of us. This is the first time in over a decade the event has been held here on campus, and where could be more fitting than to have the arts, culture, and music of the movement than at this beautiful Hillberry Gateway Performing Arts Center. This is our third year of having a theme-driven tribute based on different perspectives of Dr. King and the civil rights movement. Last year, we marked the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington and his I Have a Dream speech. Our theme was economic freedom through social justice, because the 1963 march was a call for economic equality and the right to gainful employment for all people. The entire civil rights movement was a mass protest and display of activism to gain equal rights for African Americans. White and black singers, actors, artists, and musicians addressed discrimination and segregation in their arts and participated in acts of protest. Eddie Chambers, a professor of art and art history in Texas, wrote a few years ago that the assassination of Dr. King was a pivotal moment in America, and it marked an influence on the arts, and it had a marked influence on the arts in the U.S. In that same article, he went on to say, Dr. King's untimely passing gave, within the arts, an inducement to cultural diversity and struggle for racial equality. During today's program, Wayne State students, faculty, and staff will be featured as we highlight the intersection of song, dance, poetry, and art with the civil rights movement. We will see how Dr. King's teachings, writings, and speeches influence the arts. We also will hear from special guest Santita Jackson about her brief yet impactful time with Dr. King and her growing up as the daughter of Reverend and Mrs. Jesse Jackson. We also will have the Arthur L. Johnson Community Leadership Awards presented by Rocket Companies. Thank you again for returning for the second year. We greatly appreciate all of our sponsors, who you should be able to see on the screen, who've made today's program possible, and for their support of Dr. King's legacy. Because of their generosity, we're able to hold this wonderful community event at absolutely no cost to anyone who's in attendance. It is free. Now, you've already heard her voice this morning. You see where my mind is. You've already heard her voice this morning, but it is a pleasure to present our MC for today. Many of you, including me, remember Amir Jacobson on WGPR TV 62, Detroit's first black-owned station. Well, her daughter and namesake followed in her footsteps. Not only did Amir Jr. attend an HBCU like her mom, side note, Amir is a proud Howard Bison, just like Santita Jackson, who we'll hear from later, but Amir Jr. also went into broadcasting. Last year, she left her position at Georgia Technical College in Warner Robins and returned to Detroit to work at, you guessed it, TV 62. In fact, she has come full circle. She is now working in the same Southfield studio where she spent many evenings shadowing her mom. On a personal note, not only is Amir Jr. an outstanding anchor and executive producer at 62, she is an absolutely wonderful, warm, and caring person. And this is the most important part. She is a Wayne State graduate with a Master's of Arts degree. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce her. Please join me in welcoming Amir Jacobson to the stage. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you guys so much for being here today and for including me, which is always a privilege and an honor, especially considering that I too am a warrior. Yes. Events like these are always so fun, especially when you get entertainment and children involved. But one thing that I do to keep it all in perspective, last MLK Day, I talked to Andrea Waters King, the daughter-in-law of Martin Luther King. Soon we'll hear from the daughter of Jesse Jackson. And as Stacy said, I'm the daughter of the woman who anchored the first Black newscast on the first Black network in the country. So, as awesome as that is, and what a blessing it is to be a part of that legacy, it puts into perspective, though, all this wasn't that long ago. And sometimes I think we can lose that when we're looking at books or listening to performances of way back in the day when King was fighting for civil rights. What? It's like, we're still now, the next generation is just right here. And so I think it is so wonderful to have things like this to remind us of that. And so thank you all for coming, and thank you, Wayne State, for having me. And I loved that Nas performance. Was that not fantastic? All right, we are going to move on because I'm a talker and I could stay here all day, but I know y'all got stuff to do and you want to leave before the snow comes. So our next speakers we're going to welcome to the stage will be Wayne State President Kimberly Andrews Espy, Mark Gaffney, the chair of the Wayne State Board of Governors, followed by Donetta Hauser-Sly, the Amazon Director of Human Resources.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you and good morning. How are you? On behalf of our Wayne State community, let me welcome you to this important celebration, my very first. Let me also recognize we have so many of our Board of Governors here. Would you all please stand so we can thank you for your support and for your guidance for the university on this important day? Thank you. I'd also like to personally welcome, on behalf of our university, a few other special guests who are joining us today. Let me recognize and thank singer and political commentator and everything else in between, Santita Jackson, who you will hear from shortly. She gave us a little bit of a taste last night, and we are in for a real treat today, I can tell you. And also let me thank journalist and author, director of arts and culture for our city of Detroit, Rochelle Riley. We're so appreciative at Wayne State for the partnership that we have with our city. And I also would be remiss if I didn't recognize my predecessor, Dr. Roy Wilson, and his spouse, Jacqueline, and to thank them for their leadership and their work and for joining us here today. So yesterday we began with a tribute to Dr. King with an event that highlighted Detroit's influence on the civil rights movement through art, religion, politics, and labor. Today, we have another special day planned as we continue to celebrate the arts, culture, and music of the movement. Even as we explore the various cultural aspects of the civil rights movement, let's reflect a little bit today on the man that we honor on this important day. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned a world where the words of our Declaration of Independence, that we all are created equal, were the reality of life in America. He made the ultimate sacrifice for this vision, and so it behooves us to ask ourselves, what are we doing to fulfill the dream that he so vividly described? How do we answer what Dr. King referred to as life's most important and urgent question? That is, what are you doing for others to promote this reality? I arrived in Detroit this last summer to begin my tenure as president of Wayne State University, a position that I am so honored and humbled to hold. A key reason that I was attracted to Wayne State is that I was joining an institution that honored Dr. King's vision throughout its history, an institution that has made sure its doors were open wide for everyone with the talent and the desire to pursue their goals for a better world through education, an institution that's knocked down barriers and opened up opportunities long before it was popular or acceptable to do so. Wayne State continues to do that today and will do that into the future. And not just any old opportunity. Wayne State offers an opportunity for a welcoming, pluralistic learning environment with outstanding faculty who are experts in their field and second to none. At the cutting edge of discovery, of innovation, and creating new knowledge today, that will be in the textbooks of tomorrow. For us, advancing equality means providing opportunity that enables access to a top-tier education that alters one's path and trajectory. Now, Wayne State has a distinctive record of success. Let me say, though, that doesn't mean that we're done. In fact, we will not rest. Our mission drives us every day to ask what we can do more to help our students succeed in the classroom and to prosper in life. Our work won't be done tomorrow or next year or in the next 5 years. In fact, our work may never be done, as sad as it is that it makes me to say that. This journey ahead, though, doesn't discourage us. Rather, it motivates and inspires us because we see and know how lives are transformed through higher education every day. Because it's not just the lives of our students themselves, but for their families, their neighbors, our communities, and our society as a whole. At Wayne State, we see firsthand how hopes and dreams are fulfilled. We see the smiles on faces of young men and women as they cross their stage and grab their diplomas. Think about 2,900 actually this last December. We hear their families and friends and loved ones cheering from the bleachers. And this last year we graduated 6,500 students. Earning their degree is just the start of a bold future where each graduate will go out and change the world in small and large ways. That is a mission and that is a privilege. That's why I am so proud to be a part of this institution and so delighted for Wayne State to host this important event on our campus, both a tribute to Dr. King and the resulting accomplishments that are rooted in the historic and ongoing struggles, and a reaffirmation of our collective commitment to the ongoing work ahead to realize the just world that he envisioned. Thank you so much for joining us today, and on behalf of Wayne State, thank you and welcome.
Good morning. On behalf of Wayne State University Board of Governors, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us here in the heart of Detroit at the Hillberry Gateway, our newest home for performing arts at Wayne State University and a key resource for our community. I'd like to acknowledge 3 other members of the board who are with us today, Governors Brian Barnhill, Shirley Stancato, and Danielle Atkinson, and let you know that all of us are honored and humbled to be a part of such a tremendous commemoration of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's historic legacy. Even more importantly, I'd like to remind you that Wayne State University is an institution that remains steadfastly committed to the principles that defined Dr. King, his activism, and we remain committed to the goal of creating progressive change in all areas of our lives. Whether it's offering free medical care to Detroiters, broadening access to college for underrepresented students, investing in our neighborhoods, or boosting social mobility for those too often marginalized, Wayne State University and its administrators, faculty, staff, and students will remain devoted to the goal of a just society where everyone gets an equal opportunity to participate, to benefit, and to dream, just as Dr. King instructed us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Donetta Hauser-Sly, the HR Director for Amazon's North America Customer Fulfillment Team. As a native, born and raised in the city of Detroit, I am graciously honored to be here representing Amazon as we continue our commitment to this community and its leaders. I am joined today by Carla Preston, the Director of Global Procurement, Ian Conyers, the Head of Community Affairs here in Detroit, Jillian Blackwell from our Global Operations Learning Team, and Bianca Russell, who is a Program Manager for our Partners Foundation located right here in the city of Detroit. Our commitment shows up through our footprint and contributions with the Detroit region as home to 23 active active Amazon locations, and over 17,000 Amazonians. We launched Det 6 last July in the city of Detroit and are well over 1,000 employees strong. Our community program has donated over $3 million to 100 organizations across the city of Detroit. And across Michigan, Amazon has invested over $11 billion since 2010 and provided 30,000 full-time and part-time jobs to the state economy. In November, Amazon Community Engagement, our worldwide stores, and Amazon Music had the privilege and opportunity to provide $175,000 to the Hitsville Next program. We were really excited about that opportunity to invest in the youth in Detroit. Today, we are here to celebrate and honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was a man of faith, courage, and vision. He dedicated his life to the cause of justice and equality for all people. He inspired millions of people around the world with his words and actions. He changed the course of history with his nonviolence resistance to oppression. Dr. King was not only a leader of the civil rights movement, but a champion for all humanity. He challenged us to live up to the ideals of democracy and freedom and taught us that the true measure of a person is not where they stand in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. As I look back over my life here in the city of Detroit, I've seen firsthand how we as a community has embraced his vision. I am deeply inspired by the partnerships focusing on the role Detroit has played in the civil rights movement, from music, politics, religion, and labor. Today, as we remember Dr. King, let us renew our commitment to his vision and his values. Let us honor his legacy by living his dream and make it a reality for ourselves and the generations to come. I am hopeful beyond today and for the moments to come. And as I take my seat, I would love to leave you with one of Dr. King's quotes. "The time is always right to do what is right." Today, let us be mindful of his vision and continue to build a community where everyone can thrive. Thank you.
Now, what she didn't tell you, those billions that Amazon brought in were majority deliveries to my house. So, you're welcome. Now, throughout this morning, we're going to hear reflections on how music, poetry, and art influenced or were influenced by the civil rights movement. Our first reflection will tell the story of several Hollywood and music icons who used their influence and voices to advance civil rights for Black people. This will be followed by another wonderful performance by the Detroit Academy of Arts and Sciences Show Choir under the direction of Angela Key. For now, though, please welcome to the stage Wayne State students Jayla Beeks, Taylor Johnson King, and Jesse Williams.
We've got a hell of a long way to go in this racial situation. As long as most white men think of Negro first and a man second, we're in trouble. I don't know why we can't grow up. That's what Frank Sinatra said. He was a white megastar who promoted civil rights for African Americans long before it was politically correct. Most people know Sinatra as an actor and a singer, But what many may not know about him is that he was a man who championed the rights of all people and treated Black people with dignity and respect. One of his unsung achievements was helping to integrate Las Vegas. Sinatra insisted that the orchestras that backed him on his best-selling record albums and on the live tours were integrated. This important step opened the doors for better pay and treatment for many Black entertainers, and it also sent a clear message. Prejudice and racism had no place at a Frank Sinatra concert. He was the leader of the Rat Pack. The group of white, Jewish, Italian, and African Americans were not only a symbol of coolness, but they represented what America would look like today. Being in the Rat Pack allowed Sammy Davis Jr. to raise approximately $750,000 for the Civil Rights Movement. That's equivalent to $5.6 million today. Sinatra was also a generous financial supporter of Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement. He once said, "A friend to me has no race, no class, and belongs to no minority. My friendships are formed out of affection, mutual respect, and a feeling of having something in common. These are eternal values that cannot be classified."
During the Civil Rights Movement, a handful of celebrities, both Black and white, risked their careers by fighting for racial equality. These Hollywood celebrities worked both behind the scenes and in the front of the footlights to contribute their money, connections, and fame to the Civil Rights Movement. Harry Belafonte, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Sammy Davis Jr., Dick Gregory, Sidney Poitier were joined by Marlon Brando, Charlton Heston, Burt Lancaster, James Garner, Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward, Rita Moreno, and other white celebrities at the March on Washington to support Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement. Perhaps one of Dr. King's closest friends, biggest supporters, and staunchest advocates during the Civil Rights Movement was Harry Belafonte, who died last year. His obituary in The Guardian said, "Harry Belafonte was always in frame anytime the civil rights struggle was in focus." The Guardian obituary goes on to tell the story of how in 1968, in the midst of the raging civil rights protest, Harry Belafonte sat in for John Carson at NBC's Tonight Show desk, the first Black person to host The Late Show. Somehow, he convinced the network to book his great friend, AKA FBI's #1 public enemy, as a guest. Dr. King settled right in, unbuttoning his black suit jacket, flashing a bright smile, and appearing more at ease than most white Americans had ever seen him. He started out with an anecdote about how lucky he was to be sitting with Belafonte in Los Angeles after suffering through mechanical issues on the highway and in that flight. He said, "I don't want to give you the impression that as a Baptist preacher, I don't have faith in God in the air. It's simply that I've had more experiences with him on the ground." He said to a roaring laughter. 2 months later, Dr. King was assassinated.
Three months after the March on Washington, Nina Simone wrote Mississippi Goddamn in response to the Birmingham church bombing and the murder of Medgar Evers. It reflected her growing determination to be a part of the civil rights movement and referenced the horrifying events in Mississippi, Alabama, and other southern states that resisted desegregation, fairness, and equality. Over time, Nina Simone would add to the lyrics for each act of violence and oppression throughout the country each time she sang it. Miss Simone would go on to write and perform other songs of protest, including Old Jim Crow, For Women, and Why, The King of Love is Dead. The latter was composed shortly after the murder of Dr. King. Of her protest songs, Miss Simone remarked, An artist's duty is to reflect the times. But by the late 1960s, she identified with a different side of the civil rights struggle. The Black Power movement was rising, and Black people could be heard chanting with raised fists and large afros, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud." Miss Simone then wanted to capture the joy in Black identity. She said, "When I go, I'm going to know that I left something for my people to build on. That is my reward." One of the songs she left was inspired by her good friend Lorraine Hansberry. Miss Hansberry made history as the first African-American woman to have a show produced on Broadway. It was called A Raisin in the Sun. Miss Hansberry died of cancer at the age of 34, and the play To Be Young, Gifted, and Black was based on her letters, interviews, and journal entries. Miss Simone wrote a song with the same title, not only to remember her friend, but to also inspire the next generation of Black children.
There was an article in the New York Times on Lorraine Hansberry and a play downtown off Broadway called To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, produced by her. And I remember getting a feeling in my body. And I said, that's it. To be young, gifted, and Black. That's all. And sat down at the piano at that moment and made up the tune.
I don't know about out here, but back there we were all trying to do the moves and it No, we're not all gifted. So, moving on, the Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Community Leadership Awards are a signature segment of Wayne State's tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King. This is the second consecutive year that Rocket Companies has presented the awards. Please welcome Wayne State alumna Dr. Kimmery Yowell, Chief Diversity Officer for Rocket Companies, followed by Wayne State University's Patrick Lindsay, Vice President of Government and Community Affairs, Shirley Stincato, Vice President of the Board of Governors, and finally Chris Collins, he is the Director of Jazz Studies.
Good morning. Thank you, Stacy, for inviting us to partner with Wayne State yet again. We are proud to be a presenting sponsor for the Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Community Leadership Award. I am Kimmery Yowell. I am the Chief Diversity Officer for Rocket Companies, but I am also a proud warrior. I am just filled with pride every time that I come down to campus and just see everything that we have done and the changes that we have made and the impacts that we are making on our students every single day and the impact that we are having in Detroit. So go Warriors. No, go Warriors. At Rocket Companies, we believe that everyone should have the ability and access to pursue their dreams of home ownership. Growing up on the west side of Detroit, that was not always the case. So we are proud that we're able to help people find opportunities in home ownership. But we also believe in supporting consumers and clients in meaningful ways in the communities that we serve. And art and culture, we know, enrich our lives in countless ways. They provide a platform for self-expression, they inspire imagination, and promote social cohesion. From visual arts to music, theater to literature, these creative outlets shape our identities and contribute to the fabric of our society, and we recognize that at Rocket Companies. That's why we've made strategic institutional investments to include support for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, the Detroit Institute of Arts, the Detroit Historical Society, and the Motown Museum, just to name a few. These investments will strengthen the operations of the organizations as well as ensure that their programming is serving the broader community, particularly those that don't have access to traditional arts and culture programming. So we help to subsidize those ticket costs. So think about that when we're in our communities and we talk about how the arts actually challenges us to critically think. And then when we think about those in this society that don't have access, it's so important to provide that access. Because what we understand is that art is so much more than just a pretty picture. It's a way to start conversations, to build connections, and challenge ourselves to think differently about the world. This is why we continue to partner with the Small Business Murals Project, which brings artists and small business owners together. You've probably seen these murals throughout the city of Detroit. And we've proudly supported this intersection between art, culture, and entrepreneurship since 2017. By supporting initiatives in arts and culture, we're not only investing in the present, but we're also investing in the future. We recognize that by nurturing artistic talent and cultural preservation, we are fostering innovation, critical thinking, and empathy amongst individuals. Couldn't we all use a little bit more empathy? These qualities are essential for a thriving and inclusive community. Moreover, our commitment to this cause helps to ensure that the arts and culture remain accessible to all. We understand the power of democratizing creativity, making it possible for individuals from all backgrounds to participate and benefit from all artistic endeavors. This inclusivity not only broadens opportunities, but also contributes to the overall well-being of our communities. Our dedication to this cause not only embraces our cultural landscape, but also strengthens our collective spirit. It is crucial that we continue to be committed, which we are, so you'll see us back here next year, to investing in the arts and the culture, as they have been transformative impact on individuals and society as a whole. And I am so thankful for the role that art and culture has played in my life, because I know I wouldn't be who I am today had amazing sponsors and organizations invested in folks like me when I was growing up on the west side of Detroit City. So, again, I'm excited. I'm pumped up to be back here with all of you to share the impactful work that we are doing at Rocket Companies to positively impact the outcomes of all of those in our communities. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Grateful to be here and glad to see all of you. And thank you to Dr. Kamari for your support as well as that of Rocket Companies. And we already have signed you up for next year, as you indicated. Just before I get ready to talk about Arthur Johnson, I do want to make one birthday shout out. In addition to celebrating the birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, celebrating the birthday of my mother, Ida Lindsay, tomorrow, who is 97 and with us today in the audience. Amen. See where I get my good looks from, don't you? Wayne State's tribute to the life and the legacy of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of this university's signature events, and I am so grateful that there are so many rich ties between Dr. King, the movement, Detroit, and yes, even Wayne State University. This signature event was the brainchild of the late Dr. Arthur L. Johnson, who was an executive vice president here at Wayne State University, and he also was a classmate of Dr. King at Morehouse College. The awards in Dr. Johnson's honor recognizes those in our community, both individuals and organizations, who exemplify Dr. King's commitment, Dr. Johnson's commitment to community and to making a positive difference in the lives of others. Now, prior and during his time here at Wayne State, Dr. Johnson was a remarkable civil rights leader. He was a committed community influencer. He was an educator and an administrator. And in his memoir that he wrote, Race and Remembrance, Dr. Johnson stated relative to this program, he initiated this program. He said, I wanted to make sure that Wayne State's Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial Program would be a first-rate program and attract not only students, but the community at large. And you here today exemplify what Dr. Johnson envisioned as the community and the university gathers in this space. We remain committed to preserving Dr. Johnson's vision of an exceptional and community-embracing celebration of Dr. King's life and his legacy. And thanks again to our sponsors, we're able to do this free of charge and to bring in young people such as these talented, gifted Detroit Public School students. And so, please watch the video, and then they'll be followed by the award presentations.
Arthur L. Johnson was a civil rights pioneer, human rights advocate, educator, scholar, and ultimately a champion of justice. He retired as Senior Vice President of Wayne State University in 1995 after serving 23 years in various high-ranking positions. Embodying a fierce but quiet courage, Dr. Johnson was perhaps greater known as a freedom fighter in the battle to end racial segregation and discrimination in neighborhoods, businesses, restaurants, hospitals, banks, and other institutions throughout Detroit. In 1948, he graduated from Morehouse College alongside his classmate and close friend, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And like Dr. King, Art Johnson grew into an extraordinary individual whose legacy both endows and inspires all our efforts to create unity and a better city. After being recruited to Detroit in 1950 by the NAACP to serve as the National Executive Secretary, Dr. Johnson served in this capacity from 1950 to 1964. Longtime friend Judge Damon J. Keith said, Art rose from poverty to prominence largely on the strength of his intellect, integrity, determination, and compassion for all people. He was a man of absolute integrity, loyalty, and commitment to this city and community. The Arthur L. Johnson Community Leadership Awards recognizes individuals and organizations that embody the same passion and desires that Dr. Johnson lived by, to invest in the community and in the lives of others. He will be forever remembered as a champion of justice.
Good morning. I often say when I stand at the podium that I was raised in the Baptist tradition, and typically I'm accustomed to call and response, so we can do a little bit better than that. Good morning. Good morning. Much better. I feel at home now. I'm really, really honored to stand here this morning to be the presenter of one of the Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Leadership Awards. And part of the reason for that goes back to what Amir was saying earlier, was that I had the honor of knowing Dr. Johnson and working with him in this community. So again, I'm happy to stand here. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra is one of the honorees this morning, and I have the honor to present the award. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra has been in Detroit for more than 130 years, and the mission of the orchestra says the Detroit Symphony Orchestra impacts lives through the power of unforgettable musical experiences by sustaining a world-class orchestra for our city and the global community. As part of that commitment, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra's Detroit strategy is the blueprint for expanding the organization's participation in the growth and well-being of the city. As part of its Detroit strategy, about 4 years ago, in recognition of the vital, enriching role that music can play in the lives of young people, the DSO founded Detroit Harmony, a collaborative of more than 40 local arts nonprofits, schools, and community organizations. Detroit Harmony operates under the leadership of Managing Director Damian Crutcher. Detroit Harmony's mission is to bring an array of musical experiences to Detroit youth, and especially to connect them with opportunities to learn how to play an instrument. To date, listen to this, over 2,500 instruments have been collected, refurbished, and prepped for use and to be donated to Detroit students, and many of them have already been donated. In addition to providing instruments, Detroit Harmony aims to increase economic opportunity by support for instrument technicians, music educators, and teaching artists who are all essential to a thriving musical community. The Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Leadership Organization Award is being presented to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra's Detroit Harmony Initiative because it exemplifies Dr. Johnson's commitment to the Detroit community. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Detroit Symphony Orchestra President and CEO Eric Ronmark and Detroit Harmony Managing Director Damian Crutcher. Okay. so excited.
Good morning, everyone. If Gretchen were here, she would right now say, "Chris, honey, you're already speaking too long." But on this auspicious occasion, this intersection of our celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, this year's honoring of Gretchen C. Valade and Dr. Arthur Johnson, one of the most finest human beings I've ever known, I wanted to evoke a few words from Dr. King, more eloquent than I could ever say, intensely relative today, and I believe capture the sentiments that were the drivers behind Gretchen C. Valade's love and support of jazz, of the city of Detroit, and all those who participate in either or both. In the 1964 opening of the Berlin Jazz Festival, Dr. King, amongst other things, said, "Jazz speaks for life. This is a triumphant music, and modern jazz continues that tradition by singing the songs of a more complicated urban existence. Everyone has the blues. Everyone yearns for purpose. Everyone needs to love and needs to be loved. Everyone needs to clap their hands and be happy. Everyone yearns for faith." And within music, especially this category, this broad category we call jazz, there are the stepping stones to all of these. Gretchen Valade turned those sentiments into action, and she changed our world, changed our lives. And much like our responsibility to carry on the vision and commitment and example of Dr. King, it is now up to us to carry on her vision and build on her example.
Detroit's jazz community is mourning the death of Gretchen Valade. The Carhartt heiress was a prominent arts supporter and philanthropist who founded Mack Avenue Records and kept the Detroit Jazz Festival alive. Our Andres Gutierrez is at Kercheval Avenue near Fisher Road in Grosse Pointe Farms with a look at the far-reaching impact she made in her 97 years.
I came to calling her the angel of jazz many years ago because she has this purity of vision, purity of dream.
In doing so, Gretchen Valade turned the dreams of countless artists into reality, sharing her success to ensure there was a thriving jazz community in Metro Detroit.
Because what she's about is breaking down barriers so that people can participate in these things. Everyone is invited to the party.
One of those, the Detroit Jazz Festival that Valade rescued more than a decade ago. She established a foundation with a $10 million endowment to keep the largest free jazz festival in North America alive. In recent years, Valade donated $9.5 million to Wayne State University for a new jazz center that will bear her name. Chris Collins, one of Valade's closest friends and the director of jazz studies at Wayne State, is overseeing the project.
It will put a footprint of jazz right on Cass Avenue.
Valade brought jazz to her neck of the woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, when she opened the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe in 2008. Collins points out how Valade was so thoughtful of the artists that performed here at the club that when she learned that the green room in the original space wasn't adequate enough, she ended up buying the building next door and built them a new one. Her contributions won't soon be forgotten.
She did it for all the reasons she said she did it, to make the world a better place.
In Grosse Pointe Farms, I'm Andres Gutierrez.
To accept the Arthur L. Johnson Award, posthumously presented to Gretchen C. Valade. By the way, I hope we can meet next door in future years at the Gretchen C. Valade Jazz Center. Have some fun there. But to accept the award, talk about legacies, please welcome to the stage Gretchen's granddaughter, Gretchen R. Valade. Gretchen? Come on over here, Chris. Okay.
She has a few.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you on behalf of my grandmother, Gretchen Carhart Valade, for presenting the Dr. Arthur L. Johnson Community Leadership Award to her. To introduce myself, I'm her granddaughter and lucky enough to be her namesake, Gretchen R. Valade, and I feel so honored to be able to be here to accept this on her behalf. If you knew my grandmother or knew of her, you most likely knew how much she loved jazz, Detroit, and the jazz and Detroit community. Jazz was her life and what motivated her. She, of course, loved the music. However, she had an immense appreciation and love for the musicians. She understood the talent and that they had and knew the importance of celebrating that talent and skill, giving it the respect that it deserves. If you ever went to her jazz cafe, the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe in Grosse Pointe, you could tell that loud and clear, either by her actively shushing you or reading the sign that was on every table. Thank you for keeping your conversations to a minimum. Enjoy the music. Signed, Gretchen Valade. Gretchen felt honored to contribute to the jazz community. She was always looking for ways to keep the energy and momentum going. She started a highly regarded jazz record label called Mack Avenue Records, and then she turned to the next generation of jazz musicians and worked together with Wayne State University to support and contribute to jazz studies and performances. One of my fondest memories of my grandmother is seeing her at 90 years old in her green cap and gown, accepting an honorary doctorate degree from Wayne State University. She was so delighted to receive this and to be able to now go by Dr. Valade. In addition to her fondness of jazz and jazz musicians, she put her heart and her soul into making sure that music was accessible to all. Although she spent the end of her life outside of the city, my grandmother was proud of being from Detroit, born and bred. She believed that not only all people, but specifically all Detroiters, should have access to world-class jazz music. And at the end of the summer, over Labor Day weekend, she made sure that access to world-class music was free for the city to enjoy at the Detroit Jazz Festival. On her behalf, thank you again so much.
If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on, pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on.
If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on, pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to pray on. If we want hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to work on, and got to hope to survive in this world today. Then every day we've got to walk on. If we want hope to survive,
if we want peace in the world,
then every day
we've got to work on, work on, work on.
To survive
if we want peace in the world,
then every day we've got to
work on, work on, work on.
hope to survive in this world today, then every day we've got to move on, move on. If we want to survive in this world today,
on, move on, move on. March on, march on, never march on, march on, march on, march on, march on, march on, never march on, march on, march on, teach on, teach on, never teach on, teach on.
Another fantastic performance. Keeping with the theme of the arts, the Black arts movement emerged during the Civil Rights and Black Power era in the 1960s and 1970s as a significant cultural and artistic movement within the African American community. It developed largely in reaction to systemic racism and state violence that was faced by Black people right here in the United States. To learn more about this, please welcome to the stage Samantha Knoll, WSU Associate Professor of Art History and the Hawkins Ferry Endowed Chair in Modern and Contemporary Art. Following Professor Knoll will be the Spain School of Dance Conservatory under the direction of Nakia Lockhart.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here to offer remarks on the role of the visual art during the Civil Rights Movement. I'll be focusing more on the Civil Rights and less on the Black Power movement. So by the time the major landmark events of the 1950s marked a pivotal moment of the Civil Rights Movement, a number of African American artists like Elizabeth Catlett and Charles White created works of art that reflected stances of social engagement and protest. Many of them even joined organizations like the NAACP and the National Negro and Civil Rights Congresses and exhibited their works in galleries and museums that promoted figurative and social realist art. This was during a time in the American art world when abstraction was promoted as the ultimate form of creative expression and was viewed as being emblematic of the United States, while social realism was affiliated with communism and the former USSR, and therefore anti-American. As Richard J. Powell explains, despite concerns about being blacklisted, several socially engaged African-American artists persevered throughout the 1950s and into the 1960s, producing work that not only challenged a racially biased white status quo, but reinvigorated the Black subject in American art. Norman Lewis was one of a few African-American artists who thought that by creating abstract art, they wouldn't be confined to having work exhibited in Negro-only exhibitions. By heeding to abstraction's call for individualistic and artistic freedom, they believed that their art, and not their race, would be the central focus. But what ended up happening was a subordination of their Blackness. Their priority was to place themselves and their work in a larger, wider, and ultimately a whiter art world. So, therefore, their work was not culturally specific. Even artists who created art that pertained to the African American experience wanted their art viewed as American rather than African American. These challenges African American artists faced in the art world persisted well into the late 1960s, which was a period characterized by more explicit forms of self-assertion and self-definition. Thank you.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of times, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soul's rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs?
Not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you.
Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave.
What immediate results do you hope to achieve?
And so,
we hope to achieve equal rights for human beings and the world.
I'll rise. I'll rise. I'll rise.
All right. Before, during, and after the Civil Rights Movement, poets like Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, Dudley Randall, Margaret Walker, and others used their work to instill a sense of pride in Black identity, to push towards change, to praise those fighting in the struggle, and to honor those who lost their lives in that same struggle. Wayne State Distinguished Professor in African American Studies, Dr. Melba Boyd, and Wayne State alum and City of Detroit Deputy Mayor Todd Bettison are about to give us a little bit of a history lesson. They will be followed by Wayne State's Freedom Players Social Justice Theater Ensemble. Say that 3 times fast. Performing Langston Hughes' Let America Be America Again.
Thank you, Amir. We're going to show a clip from a documentary film that I made about Dudley Randall, who, by the way, did his undergraduate degree at Wayne State University and then went on to get a master's in library science at the University of Michigan, which is often the case. And this is a translation of his very famous poem, Ballad of Birmingham. He wrote this poem right after the bombing of the church in Birmingham, Alabama, at the request of Reginald Wilson, who was a co-editor of Correspondence, which was a magazine that was published by activists here in the Detroit area. He said he didn't have anything, but he would think about it and see if he could come up with something worthy. And he did. This poem has been anthologized, I know, hundreds of times. It has been translated into many foreign languages, but also appears in textbooks for teaching English and American literature all over the world. Just a quick thought about when I was a guest professor at Fudan University in Shanghai, China. And this was in 2009, and I was teaching Black film and Black literature, and these were students who were majoring in English. And this shocked me. The students said, when I began to talk about Dudley Randall and to show the film Ballad of Birmingham, they said, "We know this poem." They had been taught this poem when they were studying English as children. That's the impact of the Black Arts Movement, as my colleague Samantha Noel has mentioned here, was critical to also expanding the movement and getting international recognition. Dudley Randall not only wrote this poem, which has become iconical to the struggle, he also founded the Broadside Press and published this poem as a broadside that went out all over the world. His press was the foremost poetry publishing press for Black, not just for Black poetry, small press for American poetry in this country. So what I did, as he appointed me as his, shall we say, the executor of his literary estate, I said to Dudley, I said, we need to get you, your voice and your thoughts into film so that we will have you and be able to hear you long after you have transitioned onto the next plane. So today we're going to see Ballad of Birmingham, and it is a poem that is represented relative to his voice and also the imagery for that particular historical moment, as well as by music by the late, great Ken Cox, who did the music for the entire documentary. Thank you.
Mother dear, may I go downtown instead of out to play and march the streets of Birmingham in a freedom march today? No, baby, no, you may not go, for the dogs are fierce and wild, and clubs and hoses, guns and jails ain't good for a little child. But mother, I won't be alone. Other children will go with me and march the streets of Birmingham to make our country free. No, baby, no, you may not go, for I fear those guns will fire. But you may go to church instead and sing in the children's choir. She has combed and brushed her night dark hair and bathed rose petals sweet and drawn white gloves on her small brown hands and white shoes on her feet. The mother smiled to know her child was in the sacred place, but that smile was the last smile to come upon her face. For when she heard the explosion, her eyes grew wet and wild. She raced through the streets of Birmingham, calling for her child. She clawed through bits of glass and brick, then lifted out a shoe. Oh, here's the shoe my baby wore. But baby, where are you?
Very powerful. In 1964, months after Dr. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech in Detroit, Langston Hughes visited our city. His visit lasted several days, and February the 9th was proclaimed Langston Hughes Day. Mayor Jerry Cavanaugh was on vacation, and the city's African-American finance chief, Alfred Pelham, was left in charge as acting mayor. Pelham presented Hughes with a key to the city. I suppose that if it was today, that would be my role, deputy mayor. I would be presenting Langston Hughes with the key. Langston Hughes was a prolific African-American poet and author who began writing in the 1920s. However, his work was directed towards Black people, was so impactful that his messages carried through the civil rights movement. Earlier, you were briefly heard about the play, A Raisin in the Sun. The play gets its title from Hughes's poem, A Dream Deferred. We all have heard Dr. King say, I have a dream. But how many of us know that his speech was inspired by Langston Hughes's poetry? Hughes wrote a few poems about dreams that were truthful reflections of the struggle he and other Black Americans faced at the time of institutional racism and mainstream cultural suppression. What happens when a dream is deferred? He asked. Sometimes it becomes just a heavy load. Sometimes it just explodes. Dr. King's sermon, Shattered Dreams, resembled Hughes's imagery. A Christmas sermon on peace also brought up the ideology presented by Hughes. Dr. King originally delivered his speech, The Birth of a New Age, in 1956 at the 50th anniversary at the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. In later years, the ending was rewritten, also inspired by Hughes's poem, I Dream a World. As Langston Hughes had done many years before him, Dr. King dreamed of an America that represented freedom and opportunity for all. I thank Wayne State University for definitely inviting me to represent the mayor today, and also, of course, myself, because I am a warrior. Go Warriors. and just for the opportunity of standing on the shoulders of so many of our past civil rights leaders who have come before all of us that allow me and so many of us to be able to have the opportunities that we have. Without them, I would not be before you today. Thank you.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free.
America never was America to me.
Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme that any man be crushed by one above.
It was never America to me.
Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe.
There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free.
Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars?
I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching to the hope I seek only to find the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak.
I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, greed, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed.
I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry. Today, yet despite the dream, beaten yet today, oh, pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead. I am the poorest worker, bartered throughout the years.
Yet, I am the one who dreamt our basic dream, while in the old world, still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so brave, so strong, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone and every furrow turn that's made America what it is today. Oh, I am the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left Dark Island's shore, and Poland's plain, and England's grassy lay, and torn from Black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free.
The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today. The millions shot down when we strike. The millions who have nothing for our pay. For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today.
Oh, let America be America again. The land that has never been yet, and yet must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again.
Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America.
Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath. America will be.
Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies.
We, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain.
All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
Well, time moves fast, and it's hard to believe that 5 years ago, we lost our very own Queen of Soul. We all know her music, but in recent years, since her death, we've come to know more about Aretha Franklin's role in the civil rights movement. Being the queen is not all about singing, and being a diva is not all about singing. It has much to do with your service to people and your social contributions to your community and your civic contributions as well. Well, what could be a more fitting quote as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Sabrina Owens is a proud Wayne State alumna and niece of the great Riri, so please welcome her to the stage, followed by Shiara Clayton and Micah Grant, paying tribute to Detroit's own Queen of Soul.
Good morning. Yes, I am a great warrior. I remember my time here at the university well, and so does one of the ushers there. She was telling me a story. She said, when I graduated, Aretha Franklin was at my graduation. She said she was sitting in my row. She said one of her family members was graduating. I said, yes, that was me. I remember that day. I told her I was just thinking about that as I was sitting in the seat there. So good morning to you all. I'd like to thank Wayne State University for inviting me to participate in today's Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, one that recognizes my aunt, Aretha Franklin, for her courageous role in the civil rights movement. Aretha understood that to whom much is given, much is expected. And she took that responsibility seriously. She also understood that we are connected to our fellow man and that we, collectively, only succeed when the least of us succeed. Until her death, many people only knew my aunt as the Queen of Soul and may not have known that it was her father, my grandfather, the Reverend C.L. Franklin, who was a close friend to Dr. King and played a significant role in organizing the 1963 Detroit Walk to Freedom. This march was estimated to have drawn 125,000 participants. However, those close and present agree that there were close to 1 million, projecting a high probability that the March on Washington, by the same name, would be successful. Aretha's conviction to the civil rights movement was so strong that she had it written into her 1960s Columbia Records contract that she would never perform before a segregated audience. She and Dr. King had an extraordinary friendship that was fueled by their selfless work for the movement. In 1958, when Aretha was 16 years old, she went on tour with Dr. King. Shortly after, she recorded her first album, and a decade later, in 1968, she had the honor of singing at his funeral. My aunt passed away on August 16, 2018. At the time, Dr. King's daughter, Bernice King, issued a statement that called her a legend from the civil rights era and detailed how Aretha was the soundtrack of freedom. Ms. King went on to say that as a daughter of the movement, she not only used her voice to entertain, but to uplift and inspire generations through songs that have become anthems, such as Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves, and Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Ms. King also stated that Aretha and her mother, Coretta Scott King's relationship grew stronger after Dr. King's assassination. Ms. King explained that Aretha was one of the many artists who helped her mother to establish the King holiday. She described Aretha as a shining example of how she taught how to use the arts and entertainment for social change, which is what we're celebrating today as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
As an old friend, I once heard say words that touched my heart, and it began this way.
Miss Chiara Clayton and Micah Grant, also known as my first and finest sisters of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Fantastic job. Okay. Well, in 2022, the first Warrior Strong Distinguished Service Award was presented to former Detroit City Council President Brenda Jones. Last year, former Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence received this special recognition. This year, it's not another Brenda, but somebody who might be a little noteworthy as well. Please welcome Patrick Lindsay and Mark Gaffney back to the stage to present the 2024 Warrior Strong Distinguished Service Award.
Thank you, Amir. And it's my honor to be here with our board chair this morning to present this next special recognition, the Warrior Strong Distinguished Service Award. As Amir mentioned, this is the third year that we're presenting this award, and we're honored to present it to Wayne State's 12th president, Dr. M. Roy Wilson. I had the pleasure of serving under Dr. Wilson's leadership for his entire 10-year tenure, which ended last year. But Dr. Wilson left behind a tremendous legacy of leadership, integrity, and commitment to this university. Under his leadership, this university became a national model of student success as our graduation rates were honored as some of the most improved in the nation for several years running. Dr. Wilson helped realign our research portfolio to emphasize team science, scientists and researchers working together for innovation and advancement in research. He launched programs to increase the pipeline of underrepresented students, particularly in the health sciences, and created a very phenomenal program called MedDirect, which helps students to be able to go to undergraduate and medical school free of charge. We see initiatives around campus, which include the launch of the new business school, the comprehensive campus housing plan, just to name a few. And he certainly helped to implement an overhaul of this facility that we're in today, the Hillberry Gateway Complex. Now, as a part of his vision to enhance the diversity here on campus, he hired a chief diversity officer and established the Office of multicultural student engagement. He created that office to promote awareness of initiatives that encourage academic success of our underrepresented students, as well as those who were marginalized. And under his leadership, once again, this university was ranked as the best public university in this state for advancing those students who were perhaps the most economically disadvantaged to make it in society, to help them in their socioeconomic journey, to gain a degree and to end up in a better place in life. It is Dr. King that said, intelligence plus character, that's the goal of true education, and that's what Dr. Wilson did every day during his presidency. He helped students not only receive a great education, but to develop great character.
Yeah. Right under that. Thank you, Patrick. I'm going to ad-lib for just 1 minute. Best university in the state, for what Patrick said, economic increases of our student. Social mobility, best in the state. I'm not going to mention the names of those other colleges, and one of the best in the entire nation.
That's right.
Dr. Wilson, yeah. Dr. Wilson received numerous national and international awards and citations throughout an illustrious career. For all of Dr. Wilson's achievements and to honor those accomplishments, the Board of Governors unanimously voted that the name of State Hall would be changed. Last fall, we had the ribbon cutting on the fully renovated $70 million M. Roy Wilson State Hall that now features new classrooms, lecture halls, meeting and lounge spaces, and other amenities. Renaming the most frequented used building on campus was a fitting tribute to a transformative leader who has meant so much to so many in the community. We noticed today many of the speakers saying, I'm a warrior, I'm a graduate of Wayne State. You should go see this building that the transformative change brought about by Dr. Wilson. It's fabulous. Dr. Wilson's tenure as the president may have ended, but he is not retiring. He's a scholar, a surgeon, and has been designated Distinguished Professor of Ophthalmology at Wayne State School of Medicine, where he will continue to be a leader, driving innovation in higher education, medicine, and research.
And one other thing that Dr. Wilson achieved was to help up our sock game here at the university. Of course, it is said that next to every great man is an even greater woman, and Mark and I can attest to that. But Jacqueline Wilson also made a significant impact here at the university and most profoundly rooted on students in so many ways, our sports teams, but in particular, she helped them go higher. And that is a program that Jacqueline started, the HIGH program, which sought to help those who were economically challenged to continue their educations because she believed no student should stop out of school because of economic difficulties. And that program provided housing, transportation, clothing, other basic needs to ensure that students were able to continue and to get their degree. So would you join me in welcoming this wonderful power couple to the stage, Dr. and Mrs. Wilson.
You know, during the time that I was president, this annual tribute to the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was really one of the highlights for me. Dr. King stood for anti-racism, diversity, and inclusion, values that in many universities throughout this country are currently under attack, but not at Wayne State. Through its outstanding program, for example, today's program and yesterday's, as well as what it does throughout the year, Wayne State continues to affirm its commitment to these values, these principles that were so eloquently articulated by Dr. King. In fact, Wayne State celebrates them. I wish to thank Stacy Clayton, Patrick Lindsay, and their team in Community Affairs Division, as well as President Espy and the Board of Governors, to allow Dr. King's voice to continue to be lifted so that we can all benefit and strive to be better people and a better country. I deeply appreciate this award. Thank you very, very much.
I want to come out the middle at least just once and have the curtains open. That looks so cool. All right, moving on now. Reverend Dr. Joanne Watson passed away last year, but not too long before her death, she spoke about the 60th anniversary of the Detroit Freedom Walk. She was 12 years old when her grandparents picked her up on a summer afternoon in June of 1963. Little did she know that day she would find her passion for activism and purpose in life. She went from a young attendee to becoming an adult activist, teacher, elected official, reverend, all of which represent Reverend Dr. Joanne Watson. She also was the first female executive director of the Detroit branch, the NAACP, serving from 1990 to 1997. It took a while, but in 2019, a second woman was appointed executive director. She's a civil rights activist and a freedom fighter in her own right. And also, as we've all said 1,000 times, another proud Wayne State alumna. Please welcome Camilla Landrum to the stage.
You look beautiful. Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope it's okay. We've been talking about legacy all morning, and I have to share just a little bit of mine. My father, Thomas Butler, he was one of those members that migrated to California to work for Frank Sinatra and integrated in the Las Vegas Strip for 25 years. He then went on to write a play about Dr. King titled Selma, which broke box office records across the country. So I'm so thankful for this legacy. And of course, Dr. Arthur Johnson, who served not only as executive secretary, but also president of the Detroit branch NAACP. He's the only person to be both staff and leadership, so we honor him today. Good morning. It is my honor to introduce Wayne State University special guests for the 2024 tribute to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Santita Jackson is a true Renaissance woman. She is an acclaimed singer, television and radio host, producer, writer, actress, and motivational speaker. This multi-talented communicator is the host of the powerfully compelling morning drive show, The Santita Jackson Show. Santita uses her voice to address the political, social, cultural, and religious issues of our time while crossing genres and removing ideological divides. Born in Greensboro, North Carolina, to the Reverend Jaxie and Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, and raised in Chicago, Illinois, Santita was immersed in a household that was home to the civil rights movement and was a hotbed of political activism. She participated in marches and campaigns as a young child and was deeply involved in the church. Santita always had a passion for academics and music. Recognizing her promising talent, Roberta Flack gifted her with a Steinway piano at the tender age of 8. As a high school senior, Santita became a nationally recognized scholar and was a recipient of the National Merit Achievement Scholarship. Having received offers from Spelman, Yale, and Harvard, Santita opted to attend Howard University in Washington, D.C. on an academic scholarship. When it first hit the airwaves, the Santita Jackson Show was unique as it amassed a strong following of urban and mainstream audiences. This heightened profile resulted in appearances on MSNBC as a social and political pundit, where she became a founding writing contributor to their political and news website, thegrio.com. This led to her as an on-air contributor on the Fox News and Fox Business channels. Conversing today with Santita will be her friend and Detroit's own Rochelle Riley. Rochelle is a self-proclaimed writer by trade, warrior by necessity, who spent a quarter century challenging, encouraging, and informing during a long-time career as an award-winning newspaper columnist. Now, she guides the city of Detroit's investment in the arts and director of arts and culture. Please join me in welcoming both women to the stage.
Hello, how's everyone? Oh no, this program is too amazing for us to be this tepid. How's everyone? Let me tell you how excited I am. When you write a column for almost 20 years, you see moments of columns walking by or on stage or on the street. I was watching Micah Grant dance, and she was this high when I cast her in a play at our church years ago. And when I see the angel that she's become, it's amazing. And I happen to be sitting next to Patrick Lindsay's beautiful mom, who's going to be 97 years old tomorrow. And when he came out onto the stage, he said, "My main man." So we're here to talk about a main man today. And I'm so glad. First of all, I'm glad for this program every year. I'm thrilled to be here. But I'm also glad that we're looking at it through the lens of arts and culture, because people don't always know the warriors and the connections they make. And I can't tell you how grateful I am all the time for the Reverend Jackson and Mrs. Jackson and the legacy that they have left us in your work, my dear friend Santita. So I'm thrilled that you're here. You're going to hear some things today that you've never heard before. But I want to start by reading you a little bit from a column I wrote, which you may recognize because it was picked up around the world and appeared on the front page of USA Today and was on all the networks, because it talked about something that people didn't know about Aretha Franklin, which I wouldn't have known without Jesse Jackson. Death knocked on Aretha Franklin's door numerous times over the past few years, and she shut the door in its face. She had too much to do. Some people might have thought it was the supper club she had planned to open downtown. Some might have thought it was because she had that last album to finish, the one she talked to me about, the one that would feature her friend Stevie Wonder. But many folks might not know that Aretha Franklin had persevered, survived, and stayed because she was needed in a civil rights struggle that her father, the Reverend C.L. Franklin, helped lead, that his fellow soldiers like Dr. Martin Luther King and Ralph David Abernathy knew would last longer than their lives. And she quietly and anonymously helped fund the movement for decades. When Dr. King was alive, several times she helped us make payroll, said the Reverend Jesse Jackson, her friend of more than 60 years. On one occasion, we took an 11-city tour with her as Aretha Franklin and Harry Belafonte, and they put gas in the vans. She did 11 concerts for free and hosted us at her home and did a fundraiser for my campaign. She has always been a very socially conscious artist, an inspiration, and not just an entertainer. She fed families. She paid bail for ministers when they got jailed. And Santita, you had a front row for decades to what artists and literary figures did for the civil rights movement, many times because of your parents. So for this audience, which includes so many people, including the new president, who I saw yesterday and didn't realize I was talking to her, so I'm going to come up and say hi. I want us to talk about that, but I also want us to talk about the things that people don't remember about Dr. King. So I want to start in 1963 and remind people that he was the most hated man in America.
Well, he was on his way.
This is just before. First of all, hello, Detroit. I loved you so much. Detroit is like another home to me and the rest of the Jackson family. My father reminded me of his hotel was the Franklin home when he would come here. His first trial sermons were here. C.L. Franklin, Reverend Franklin, preached his ordination sermon. He was one of his fathers in the ministry. And so when my father would come to Detroit, he would actually stay at the house. He said, I remember Aretha playing Sweet Bitter Love and Skylark on the piano and all of these wonderful things, and just the whole family have embraced us down through the years. And I just want to thank God for the Franklin family and for Detroit for all the love that you've given the Jacksons down through the years. So let me just say that. But going back to the March on Washington, he was, in 1964, Dr. King, of course, won the Nobel Peace Prize, which did a reset on the world stage for the civil rights movement. So at this time, in 1963, he was approaching his peak of popularity publicly. But the movement has lots of different personalities, and we see that today. And there was a lot of battling about who was going to be and how they were going to be featured at the March on Washington. And some of the pushback was against Dr. King, a good deal of it. And so Dr. King, that is why he brought Mahalia Jackson with him to the March on Washington. She was a seminal figure in gospel music at the time. She was almost like a code of protection around him. And although he was close to Bayard Rustin and so many people, they put him really at the end of the program hoping that people would not be there, would not wait to see him. But everybody wanted to see him. But what he had done, what Reverend C.L. Franklin had done, he said, Martin, don't worry about it. And this all happened really just before I was born, actually. But I hear these stories from all of them. He said, don't worry about it. What I'm going to do, we're going to have a march on Detroit. We need that anyway. Walter Reuther and all these people, Governor Romney, we're going to work this out. And you're going to be able to have your say, and we're going to go forward. And I don't know why they continue to say that the March on Detroit had 100,000 people. Because if you look at the aerial photographs, and I've been marching all of my life, it looked like it was about 1 million people, at least 500,000. And so Dr. King really had been writing this I Have a Dream speech for some time. This I Have a Dream. And it wasn't a speech, it was a thought about where this beloved community that America really could become, how we can bring it into fruition. Because indeed, I've heard a lot of people talk about this wonderful moment where blacks and whites come together, and that was Dr. King's work. That was part of his work, but that was not all of it. The mission statement of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was to save the soul of America. Mm-hmm. Not black souls, not white souls, not red or indigenous or yellow, or just to save the soul of America, because they were clear that America had a cancer. Didn't need cold medicine, it needed chemo, but it needed love. And so that is why he was in Detroit, and that is why Mahalia Jackson was with him. So if you listen to the speech in Washington several months later, you hear Mahalia Jackson say, tell them about the dream. Tell them about the dream. Come on now. Tell them about the dream. And so that was the end of the speech. But the substance of the speech was, you have a check has bounced on us, America, and I've come here to cash it.
That's the part of the speech that everybody always ignores, the promissory note.
Well, they ignore the king that everybody hated. They ignore the king that my parents went to work for. They ignore the king that was murdered and assassinated 1 year to the day, to the minute that he announced his opposition to the Vietnam War. Let me say that again. April 4th, 1967, just after 6 p.m., he stepped to the lectern at Riverside Church, and Dr. King had been in turmoil because many people did not want him in the movement. They were trying to push him out. And he said, okay, what I will do, thank you, would you do that?
We're going to switch to, that is different.
My goodness, it's better,
Thank
right?
you. So let me go back and say, ladies and gentlemen, Santita Jackson.
So let me go back and say Dr. King was killed 1 year to the day, to the minute that he announced his opposition to the Vietnam War. I don't think it's coincidental, and no one who works for Dr. King felt that it was. Dr. King walked to the lectern at the Riverside Church in New York City, April 4th, 1967, just after 6 p.m., and he was in turmoil. He was getting a lot of traction on the Poor People's Campaign, but he was getting a lot of pushback from the Black Power movement, and a lot of people were calling him DeLaude in a derisive way. And he said, maybe it would be better if I fast unto death, or if I just get out of here. Because, I think I'm standing in the way of the movement, right? So it was in that context where he was having these migraine headaches almost on a daily basis, catching hell trying to raise payroll, which really fell to my father at the age of 24, 25. My father was raising the payroll because he was an organizer. That's why Dr. King hired him. And so, in fact, he sent my father to Detroit to meet with Berry Gordy before he met him, just trying to raise money for the movement. And so it was in that context that he spoke at the Riverside Church. And so a year after he finished the speech, Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, his chief of staff, walked up to him and said, "You do know you just signed your death warrant?" He said, "I know, but this was the right thing to do." And in the year leading up to his death, and he was killed a year to the day, to the minute later, in that year, though, the migraines were daily. Well, they were a daily occurrence. And not only that, every time he'd hear a pop or something like this, he would jump because he knew that his number was up. But everyone who worked for him, they were dealing with that. And for the record, my father and Reverend James Bevel did not want him to go to Memphis because they felt that there was something about it that just, you get this bad feeling in your stomach about something. It was just something that wasn't right. And then when the march became violent, they said, they were so accustomed to sabotage, they said, this is not right. There's something about this. We need to step out of this. We got Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta. We got all these people. We've got these Jews, Arabs. We got all these folks who are going to Washington to sit in on the mall. And it looks like we might have hundreds of thousands of people who want an end to poverty. And so it was in that context that Dr. King was killed. And so I want us to remember that. Dr. King could barely get in a black pulpit in the United States when he died. He had a more than 70% disapproval rating with white America, but more than 50% of black people disapproved of him. And because we disapproved of him so greatly, that sowed the seeds for his assassination. You remember in The Color Purple when, I think it was when it was Whoopi Goldberg told Whoopi Goldberg's character told Oprah Winfrey's husband, if you hadn't tried to rule over Sophia, white folks never would have got him. And if we hadn't disapproved of Dr. King to such an extent, the military-industrial complex and the establishment never would have gotten him. I hope that we take that as a lesson today, because far too often we are told to hate the people who love us and to love the people who loathe us.
There you go. That's right. I want you to tell us about the first time you met Dr. King.
Oh, my goodness. The first time I met him, I was on a chair like this, I guess. I was on a little chair, and my feet came to about here. Because I was just shy of my 5th birthday when he was killed. But my parents, they never promised money, but they promised rich experiences. And so as my father, I guess at that time, was working out, going to work for Dr. King, he took me to Atlanta with him. And when I was a little girl, I know a lot of people, because my father would take me on the road with him when I was 3 and 4 and 5. Why he did that, I don't know. But I'm really glad that he did. And I just remember this resonant voice and saying Santita, and I remember him coming by my parents' apartment. My parents tell the funny story, because my parents had the first 3 children in 2.5 years. Jesse and Congressman Jackson, Jesse Jackson Jr., and Congressman Jonathan Jackson are 10 months apart. They would have been born in the same year except for a week. Oh my gosh, my mother said that's so embarrassing. But when Dr. King came by the house, he said, he looked at the apartment, he looked around and said, I need to get you a raise so you can get a TV. Because, Jackie, you're pregnant again? Really? And so we had those encounters. But I tell you what, my brother Jonathan, who's in Congress now, was Dr. King's godson, and he saved his life. Part of the reason that my parents fight for the least of these so hard is because we've been that. And I'm old enough to remember when my father was not Jesse Jackson. When he was, before he was controversial, he was just a student. I mean, and they were about to throw my brother out the hospital because my parents had no money. And he had a viral pneumonia that was eating up his lung. And they said, there's nothing else we can do. And my father called Dr. King, obviously devastated. He said, if they put him out the hospital, my baby's going to die. And Dr. King said, just have them keep him overnight, and I'll be there in the morning. And when he came there, my mother said it was as if Jesus walked through the doors. This was a Catholic hospital. And they kept him, and I don't think they even sent my parents a bill. And so my father and mother go to hospitals all the time because when people see Reverend Jesse Jackson come, they treat the patients a little bit differently. You know, it's dangerous to forget. And it's always important to remember the bridges that God brought you across.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. That is right. So because we're talking arts and culture, and I'm so glad they reminded the audience that I remain a writer by trade, warrior by necessity, but I am now working in arts and culture, and there was so much about the arts that changes the way things work. We talked yesterday, and we've spent some time examining how Berry Gordy deciding to create a sound for young America, not a sound for Black America or a sound for country America, but a sound for everybody. And that happened at a time when that was needed, when the audiences that were Black and white needed to dance together. I want you to talk a little bit about the celebrities who were part of the movement, people who like Aretha and like Harry Belafonte, who worked with your father and worked with Dr. King to change things. I mean, there were people doing things before Marvin Gaye did What's Going On, but when he did, it was a world that was ready for it. So,
well, you know, it's important to note that these people were not celebrities. I mean, I know Hill Harper is here today, and I'm so excited about, I'm so glad that you did not take that $20 million to run against Rashida. You know, you need people of principle like that. This is a young brother who went to Harvard Law School, and but he's always sought to do something more. And so beyond his own celebrity, while he's celebrated, he wants to celebrate you, and I think that that's very important. When I look at these, first of all, when I met Miss Franklin and Roberta Flack and all of these people, you know, when I woke up one morning and saw my brothers climbing over Quincy Jones because they pulled him out of the guest room because you got to play with me. That's what you got to do. And, you know, we laugh about that today. First, they were human beings who worked extraordinarily hard. And that was what my parents wanted us to know, that it was Diana Ross worked extremely hard. She has been relevant for 60 years. She's not a nostalgia act. She's not an accident. These people work extremely hard, but more than that, they lifted up the best in us. That's what you remember Berry Gordy for. He and John Johnson and Al Bell of Stax Records and Clarence Avant with Buddha Records, they would not let the world see anything less than Black people at their best. So it's a funny story about, and I'll get back to these celebrated people. The Supremes and the Beatles were the top groups in the world in 64, 65. And so Mrs. Ross, Diana Ross's mother, was their chaperone because that was Berry Gordy's requirement. You were going to keep everybody clean on a personal level. Now, mischief is what it is, but that's what they did. And so they Mary Wilson conveyed the story to me that they had gotten dressed up, they put on their mink stoles, and they went to meet the Beatles because these were the top guys in the world, and they're the top girls in the world, and this is great. And when they got to the hotel, they had been smoking marijuana, and they were half-dressed. And Miss Ross promptly let them out the room. You know, because there's always been, and this is where we have to be very careful about our images, because black women have, you know, black men have never had rights that a white man could respect. Well, a black woman's never had a virtue that a white man would respect either, right? No, because we have done enough of this pole dancing and all of that, and I'm not mad at people who have to make a living and have to do what they have to do. I'm not mad about that. But what I'm talking about is what we project to the world, because our children have to live on that. And they get raped on that. They get graded down in the classroom on that. You have children who have voices that might best be suited for classical music, European classical music or jazz, who routed in another direction. We're the ones who are in charge of that. We've got to change that. And because Reverend Jackson understood the profound impact that music has on the culture, he organized something called the Black Expo. You know the Black Expos that you see all around the country? Reverend Jackson started those. And they were the Black cultural and business expositions. And they became the biggest Black events in the country. 1 million people would come through Chicago for a week to see the Jackson 5 do a matinee. This is from 69 to 75. Mm-hmm. Oh, honey. All of the Motown artists. Even Marvin Gaye came out of retirement. You know, he had gone into semi-retirement after the death of Tammy Terrell. He came out of retirement to do our film, he came out of retirement and did the whole What's Going On suite on our Save the Children documentary. But it was to project the best in us. So when I see a Roberta Flack, and if you look at the body of her work, not only is she self-produced, but they were protest songs. They never give women credit for that. They don't give Aretha credit for respect, you know, and they don't give us credit for producing our music as women, and they don't give us the credit for really finding ways to protest the system, you know. I am not surprised that Sammy Davis died of throat cancer. When you think of the hits that he took, all that he had to swallow, the insults, so that we could walk through the front door in Las Vegas, so that we could get onto the main stage. And so when he was dying, my father took me to his house a couple of times. We were in California. It's hard for me to even convey this story, because he was always a small man, but I don't think he was 50 pounds by this time. And he had wanted to stop working 20 years before, but his business managers would not allow him to do it. They said, that's nice, we know you have heart trouble, but if you stop working, you're gonna lose your house because we own it. Your cars, we own them. Sammy, you're gonna have to keep on dancing and working. And he played with that kind of pain for the rest of his life. So when he died, as he was dying, he said to my father, with what voice he had left, I want you to speak for me. Now, the religious leaders in his community did not want that to happen. And so in one of the last times that we saw him alive, he took my father's hand and put it on his throat. And he pointed. You speak for me when I go. And that means so much, because these people paid a hell of a price for us. And they were not just paying a price for us within the arts. They were breaking down barriers. That's what Motown did. That's what Stax did. I mean, who is singing Respect Yourself today? Who Who's singing respect to
I was
that?
looking to see if anybody would raise their hands.
I'm not downing anyone. I just know that we don't own the record companies anymore. And when we own the record companies, that's all we would allow. And we have to be very, very careful. Even if it's not fancy, own it yourself. So that you can own yourself.
Thank you. I tell artists that every single week. My office is called the Office of Arts, Culture, and Entrepreneurship, to remind people that musicians are small businesses, actors are small businesses, dancers are small businesses, and you need to own stuff.
Well, I mean, Prince died with his masters. Al Bell was almost killed, surrounded by his masters when they were trying to take Stax from him. I mean, we have to understand the politics. If you think that they're taking out Bill Cosby just because of some women, you are mistaken. He owns that Cosby Show. Michael Jackson owned his music. Otis Redding owned his music. James Brown owned his music. When you own yourself, you become the problem. Even George Michael had that problem. So we have to teach our children and teach them well. If you want to open up a restaurant, it doesn't need to have linen tablecloth. It can be a truck. It can be a diner. Own it. It's yours. That's our legacy. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I look at the Nina Simones, who had to go to Europe, and the Maya Angelos, who had to go to Europe so they could get some space, and James Baldwin so they could get some space so that they could tell the truth about our story. We need that today. Tell the truth about our story, not just tell the pain of our story. It's important to convey that. But oftentimes, the people who own the record companies don't want us to share our triumphs. Just the trials.
Yes.
And we're triumphant, overcoming people. And those stories need to be told.
And nobody celebrates joy like we do. And we need to show that more.
That's right. But it's on us to make that happen. We cannot, you can't, my father often says, you can't ride to freedom in Pharaoh's chariot.
Thank you.
You have to do it yourself. It might look, when Reverend Jackson ran for president, we had no money. You had the People's Mandate, and you made history here in Detroit, and then throughout Michigan. You were the game changers in the '88 campaign, which changed the game in all of American politics. No one expected Jesse Jackson to win by almost 60% of the vote in a field of 6 or 7 people. You did that. And we did it with Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets.
That's right.
That you filled with your dollars and your quarters and your nickels and your pennies, and we ran on. Even the plane that we used in 1984, it was so dangerous, it was in such poor shape, God bless them, that our Secret Service contingent said they refused my father to let him fly on it. That plane crashed and our whole crew was killed at the end of the year. It was in such bad shape. But we ran because the people told us to run.
That's right.
And my mother was in a storefront church where women are not allowed to be in the pulpit, but that was fine because the minister opened his doors to her. And this is when you still used to walk around, and at the end you would shake everyone's hand and thank them for coming. And this old man ambled up to my mother, and he said, I want to, and he said, I want to give you all a little bit of money. And my mother said, please give it to her, because we never handled the money. He said, I want your husband to know he's running for my baby. And my mother said, yes, sir, thank you. He said, no, you don't understand. She was one of the 4 little girls. You don't know who you're impacting.
That's right.
Every single day, Rochelle, when you write a column, every single day when we interact with someone, we are impacting people's lives. You're changing people's lives. And so when we listen to these artists, they can lift us.
That's right.
Or they can bury us in the ground.
Well, let me just say this, because not only are you a radio talk show host, influencer, public speaker, and my friend, you also are the owner of an amazing voice. And we have a treat for this audience because you are going to give us some of that grace.
I will share,
Yes.
absolutely.
Don't you all want to hear that? Don't you want to hear that? I want us to end with that because there are so many times when we've talked about these things where, and I have said this, and it's not to upset any men, but sometimes it takes a woman. It takes Mahalia saying, "Tell them about the dream, Martin."
Talk about the dream, Martin.
And it takes Esther Gordy, my friend Robin Terry's grandmother, to say, "We're not going to let Motown die." So now there's a museum out of that little house on Grand Boulevard that produced all those artists. There are many times where we do that. And you, as the youngest daughter, as the daughter,
the eldest
child. You know, I have to remember that you
I'm the
came
old
first as the oldest, eldest child.
I'm the old one.
The oldest
I
child.
was born when my parents were in college.
Oh, that's right.
North Carolina. I don't mind that. I'm 60.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad about it.
Better be.
You know, my father said, if you don't like birthdays, try missing one.
That's what I'm talking
I'm
about.
good.
So I would like to turn the stage over to you for you to do something wonderful. They're going to come out and let us know where
Well,
you're
you know
going
what? That's
to go.
okay. I'll sit right here.
You wanna
and
do it here?
Yeah, I'll do it right
Okay.
here. I'll do it right here.
All right.
You know, just as I was sharing with you, I, first of all, a gentleman who is with me is the Grammy Award-winning writer, producer of Safe in His Arms, the Tommies, Darius Brooks, Reverend Darius Brooks. I think he's right, yeah, there he is.
I didn't see you sneak out to... Oh, they turned my mic off.
Oh,
I
no.
didn't see you sneak out to the piano, but ladies and gentlemen, Darius Brooks.
And I just wanted to share a couple of, just a brief little medley with you. And I hope that that it will give you some hope and you'll think about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King today and go beyond volunteering. This was about creating the beloved community. It was about ending war. It was about establishing a floor beneath which no human being should fall. It was about what might be called the impossible dream, but it's quite possible. We can rebuild this world. We can make another world. We can do it. And Dr. King told us that I might not get there with you, but I've seen the promised land. You're going to get there. You're going to do it. But we cannot do what many of us do when we get to the promised land and forget God. Forget all that got us here. We must build the beloved community. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, and to try when your arms are too weary, to reach
that unreachable star. This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to that glorious quest, then my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still tried with his last ounce of courage, hey, to reach the unreachable. How can I say thanks for the things you have done for me? Things so undeserved, yet you gave to prove your love for me. The voices of 1,000,000 angels cannot express oh, my gratitude for all that we are and ever hope to be. Ooh, we owe it all to thee. You can sing it with me. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He has done. and let it be pleasing, oh Lord, to Thee. And if I should gain any praise, let it go to Calvary. With His blood, He has saved you and me. With His power, He has raised you and me, oh, to God. Oh Lord, to You be the glory. For the things, every little thing, every little thing, everything, oh, for the things He has done. God bless you, everybody.
Santita Jackson, my friend. Santita Jackson, I love you. The Impossible Dream was not about Camelot. It was about the American soul that Martin Luther King tried to see us through. And we have to continue that work. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Amen. Let's hear from Michelle Riley. Oh, you can do better than that.
We're now turning it over to the Stacey Clayton, who got us both here today and curated an amazing program. Don't leave without telling her thank you.
Thank you to Amazon, Rocket Companies, and all of our sponsors and partners. Because of you, we're able to maintain Dr. King's vision and produce a first-rate program to honor Dr. King. Thank you to the Wayne State team who've been working on this since last summer, planning the tribute. And thank you to President Espy, Patrick Lindsay, who had to leave for another meeting, but we're glad they were here with us. Today's program was taped, and it will be shown on Monday, the King holiday, at 10 a.m. at wayne.edu/live. Thank you again. Have a peaceful and productive King holiday weekend. And please join us in the reception.